Welcome to the Game of Life podcast, where we bring you inspiring softball stories, insightful tips from coaches and players, and explore how the game transcends its boundaries to become a metaphor for life. Whether you're a sports enthusiast, a casual fan, or someone just looking for inspiration, you're in for a treat. We'll unravel the tales that go beyond the scoreboard. Discover how perseverance and hard work on the field translates into resilience in your daily challenges. Learn about teamwork, leadership, and the unwavering spirit that fuels success, not just in sports, but in the game of life. Okay, fun podcast tonight. I mean, we've had a lot of fun already, and we haven't even officially started it, but we have the Richmond family. We spent years together on the softball fields, and since we're a family, well, we still spend a lot of time together. We have my wife, Stacy, my daughter, Jenna, Allie's softball partner for many years. This is fun stuff, Allie. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one. I think we have a lot of fun stories that'll come up, probably some that I remember, some that I don't from the rest of our family. So I guess, Jenna, Mom, do you guys want to give a little intro to yourselves? And then maybe just to start off, what comes to your mind when we talk about Richmond family softball? Like, what are some of the first things that come to your mind?
I guess I'll start. So I remember you guys starting softball when you were, gosh, I think you were like 6 and 8. When I look back at our softball memories, most of them actually don't have to do with softball. They have to do with family time and traveling all across the United States. All that time together in the car, just making memories and making vacations out of the places we went for softball. The relationships we've made with families, that we still have those friendships today that have been lifelong. Um, and obviously, there were great softball moments too, that I remember, but a lot of it, for me is just remembering our time together as a family.
It's awesome. Jenna,
Jenna?
how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thankful for you. I know I've talked on one of these before on a previous podcast, but just having someone to like grow up with, Allie, and just being competitive our whole life. And like Mom said, just a lot of family memories. But I just feel grateful that we are close in age and we got to grow up together in a competitive nature, but also become like best friends along the way. And even when we played in college, like just always texting each other for motivation if, we sucked that day or if we did good that day. And just having that from an early age just is a true blessing. And having mom and dad to, support us along the way. I just feel really lucky for that.
I remember when you started, I was coaching college golf at the time, missing some of your early T-ball games and games. And I made the conscious decision that this is crazy. Like I'm putting my effort in coaching, which is great, but it'd be better to be around family. I remember mom and I talking about that. But when when did you guys think that this was something you wanted to play for a while? Because of course, if it's done right, when you first start doing anything as a little kid, it was fun. But when do you and Allie, when do you and Jenna remember wanting to actually play softball like for a long time?
Well, as soon as Jenna showed interest, I showed interest because that was just how things went. When we were younger, I mean, I remember, Jenna was getting, I guess, I don't want to use the word recruited or looked at by one of our local travel teams because that just sounds psychotic. But she was getting some interest from one of our local travel teams, and I kind of just showed up to the tryout too. And I think, it was a way for us, like me to hang out with my sister at the time too, which was something that was really fun. And then I think it was just something that we all did as a family, right? Like, dad, we were practicing with you. Mom, you were always at our games and always at our practices and supporting us in any way that you possibly could. So to me, like, it never felt something that I was pressured to do. It truly was fun and it was a game. And looking back now, I see how special that is. But in the moment, it truly just felt like something I got to go do every day. But that's a big kudos to the way that you treated it for us. Jenna, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like for me, well, no one thought I was gonna play a sport, especially my dad. So to have made it to the level I did is honestly just impressive for my own self. But I feel like the moment I really knew is when I made JV in seventh grade. I just thought that was a super big accomplishment. And Coach Blauvelt, who is my coach, and she had played at the college level, and her being able to help me, and I ended up starting as a seventh grader on JV, and her just motivating me, and kind of, I feel like she first kind of gave me that passion to want to play at the next level. Before it was kind of always just for fun, or which was fantastic and a lovely way to go about it, because it's not like that for everybody. Some people are pressured by their parents or other people, but you guys asked us every year if we this was still something we were interested in, and we look at you like, duh, of course. But I feel like just hearing from her experience playing in college, I was like, I think this is something I want to do. And then it kind of just went from there.
Yeah, and mom and dad, to kind of flip the question, I mean, obviously Jen and I both ended up being pretty successful in the sport at the D1 level, but do you want to talk about kind of your thought process through putting us in the sport? If you ever had goals for us in it, what those looked like? Because I think a lot of parents nowadays kind of put their kids in a sport saying, wow, I really hope they go to college and play this. And I personally, Jen, and I know your answer, but I think it would be great for people to hear what your thought process was getting us started in competitive athletics in general.
Go ahead, Stace.
I just wanted you to try different things to see what you became passionate about, and even not necessarily the same things. Like, we wanted to give you both opportunities to choose on your own. We didn't want you to have to choose one thing because your sister did. So we like to give you opportunities in a lot of different things. And you both just really took to softball and basketball. I remember Jenna playing basketball, and her coach was actually starting the travel team, and he was just looking for athletes. So we asked Jenna to be on it. She went to the tryout, and we're like, "Hey, can her little sister come along too?" Because they were looking for people, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll keep her too." Um, and it was great. I think that gave Ellie the opportunity to, she really just started playing up with older girls. So it's like she had to, just give that little bit more. Being the younger one, she was so little, like her shorts were like down to her ankles, like, when she was playing basketball, and even like her pants, I remember in T-ball, like I had to get a diaper pin, like to keep them up. So I don't think like at that point I had any expectations or saying, oh my gosh, I think they're going to go to college and get a scholarship. I think for me, it was just seeing you be passionate about something and developing a work ethic. Um, and just learning those life skills were really cool. And to see the passion in your eyes was really cool when you played and liked it. At first, like I didn't think softball was going to be your sport, especially when I saw, Jenna out in the outfield doing dances and picking flowers out there. I didn't think that was really going to be her
See, I
sport, but I
told you.
remember after that first year of travel, I think you had 6 games. And Dad and I were like, is this, something that you want to do next year? And we want you to each answer individually. And you're like, yeah, I want to play more. I remember Jenna saying, I want more than 6. And we're like, okay, and we'll give you that opportunity. And we tried each year as a family to figure out, what opportunity is going to be best for what you wanted at that stage of your life, and it wasn't about Dad and I staying on a team where our friends were. It was about what you wanted out of the sport and how we could best get you there. And at that point, we didn't know. We just went kind of year to year. But once you decided that, you know what, I think my goal is going to play college. Then we had to have more serious discussions about, okay, how are we going to get you to your goal? How can we help you do that?
Yeah, there were never any expectations. I mean, we have video of the coach telling Jenna to throw from the third
That's
baseline. So she literally would pick up the ball wherever she got it and walk to the baseline and put both her feet exactly on the line and then throw it. And
Which, if you know Jenna today, is crazy because she's not exactly like a play-by-play, go by the book
Yeah.
person.
I'm like, what is she doing? And then she'd be running halfway to the base and have to fix her helmet before she gets to the next base, and that just, but they had fun. There were no expectations. Allie, when she tagged on in that first year travel team, her biggest claim to fame was she broke up a perfect game because she was so small, the girl couldn't throw a strike against her because there was no way Allie was going to hit that ball. And she didn't even get her first hit until the last tournament of the season. But it was never about results. It was about what Mom said earlier about family, travel, and memories. We established that early on. Now, that being said, I would have traveled you around the world playing travel horseshoes if the opportunity presented itself. So the family did a good job of keeping me in check throughout the years because there was a lot of perspective. I mean, I remember the talk you had with me when you showed interest in golf, and I thought we were going to travel the country playing golf. And you had to sit me down and say, well, that's not exactly what we're in it. We like going in the cart with you, but we don't like competing and playing in that level. So I was always in hook, line, and sinker, but all three of you provided great perspective in me that it's so much more than just a game with results. Because I think I could have got crazy. I mean, Mom used to say she saw the travel dad eyes in me sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's a point I want to go off of actually, because I feel like, and we had our moments like every family does, but I feel like our family did a really good job of kind of separating the athlete and then the person too, because I feel like dad, you helped us coach. Mom, you coached our basketball when we were really little too. And you guys were always our parents first. So I always felt that. And I know Jenna felt that too. And I'll let Jenna talk about it in a minute. But if I struggled in a game, I already felt bad enough about my performance. And you guys were never like belittling me or telling me I should have worked harder. Why aren't you trying? I'm punishing you. You're not seeing your friends this weekend because you struck out. It was always, what do you need? How can we get better? And the second part of that is, we never really blamed other people. It was always, what can you do better? What can you control? We didn't go home and say, the umpires stunk, you're perfect. Like that never came up in our family, even behind the scenes. So I know I'm throwing a lot out there, but Jenna, do you have thoughts on that too, from just like the athlete perspective?
Yeah, one thing that we talked about as a family that you touched on is, when are you ever gonna make the change their mind? Like, it's just, you're being a victim if you just constantly blame. I'm not saying that I never got mad at ump's calls. Not saying that at all. There were times where I was like, seriously, but in the back of your mind, that's when you have to flush it. And at the end of the day, someone told me before, how many times have you argued with an ump? And then he was like, you know what? You're right. It is an out, or you never mind. It was a ball. Come back to the batter's box. Never. You're just making yourself kind of look a little crazy and just bringing that negativity in with your teammates, I truly believe. So it's just all about, I feel like we really had that good perspective, and luckily we had Mom and Dad, and you, Allie, I feel like, you are a very positive light as well. And just having that was fortunate too. And yeah, I remember, if anything, that one college game when I hit a home run and Mom texted Dad and was like, hey, that was a nice hit that girl just had. And Dad was like, it was your daughter, So it's just funny. We're lucky enough we didn't have parents. I mean, obviously they were intense at times, but nothing like it's your fault, no dinner, no friends. That's
Right.
In my defense, in that game, I was in the outfield
it was funny.
with Mia and Bella, the dog, and you weren't in the entire game, and you just got into hit. So, to my defense, I was like, "Whoa, that flew!" And I was so excited. I started getting all these texts, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that was Jenna!" So it's not like I don't pay attention. I usually don't sit in the outfield. I usually sit right up and cheer for everybody.
I
That's
know, it's
best
just a funny
case.
example.
Just wanted to clarify that one.
One thing I wanted to bring up too, going off this, and then Dad, I'll turn it to you because I know you have other topics and questions too. But Mom and Dad, talk about how I feel like right once we got to an age where we could communicate for ourselves, it was never you guys going to our coaches when we had problems. You always encouraged us to go speak to them yourself or ourselves, advocate for yourself. If there was a real problem, right, you're happy to talk to them. But if it was about playing time or if it was about an issue with a teammate, like you encouraged us and you showed us how to advocate and go talk to our coach ourselves. Do you guys kind of want to talk about your logic there? Because I think we can all kind of speak to the fact that that's not always the case and it's probably not the norm for most people.
You want to start, Stace?
Yeah. So I guess, as a family, we'd always talk about like concerns you have and frustrations. We'd have frustrations as parents sometimes, but I guess that's a huge life lesson to teach your children, to advocate for themselves because, when it comes to it, you can't call their boss someday, you can't call their college professor someday. You can't, talk to their boyfriends when you get in a fight. You can't talk to their friends when they get in a fight. You have to learn those coping skills and those life skills. Um, I have to say too, like sometimes coaches push the limit with parents and kids, and it's really hard not to say something back, because they want to twist things on you, but that happens in life too. So advocating for yourself, I think, is just using your voice and being honest about how you feel and knowing that you put it all out there, competitively on the field, but also vocalizing how you feel and advocating for yourself to know that you didn't leave anything behind, by not communicating. So I think that communication piece is really, really important, in practicing with your parent or another adult, to help you along the way. I think is helpful because it is hard and can be really intimidating when you're young. You're a 12, 13-year-old girl, trying to go to an adult, with a concern. And when you always have your parent talking for you, you don't learn those skills. So I think that was really, really important. It was really hard as a parent sometimes, but I was really proud of you guys, either for just saying, you know what, it's not worth it. I'm just going to keep giving 100%. Or if you're like, you know what, I think it is time to say something. I just want to know what I can do better. And just kind of watching you guys go through that process and grow was really something that I was proud of.
That's great. I'll just follow up. I mean, Mom and I were on a very solid front with it's your journey, not ours. And, I use to this day when I coach, but Jenna's journey throughout high school and college wasn't the same trajectory as Allie's journey throughout high school and college, but it's your journey. And if you don't learn to advocate for yourself and you don't learn to help other people and team up together and do things and take care of your business without mom and dad, I mean, what's the whole point of sports really? Right. And I mean, we still use these things today. I mean, you know, the only bad word I ever say on the podcast, we do the 5-minute bitch fest, because going back to blaming others, if you are gonna advocate for yourself with a coach without your mom or dad there, or in this case, literally your mom and dad, you still have to have a place where you can vent and get things out. Like, we can't sit there and tell you to go advocate for yourself and then tell you what to say or ask how it went or why didn't you say this. So we would all have moments where we could say whatever we want just to get it out, to vent, because you have to have that circle. And that led to Jenna's famous saying that we all use to this day. Like, when we did those bitch fests, we're not looking for solutions at that point. We're looking for sympathy. And Jenna, you just texted me that today about the Bills' new coach, right? And and she's like, I'm just looking for sympathy right now. I'm not looking for a solution. And it's so important to be able to have those moments with a tight knit circle. And it could be a best friend. If it can't be a family member, I would hope it would be a family member, right? But if you don't have that foundation for all of that together, I don't think it would have mattered whether we went to a coach or not.
I was
Yeah.
just going to add to that, it's one thing to talk about your frustrations with your family, but it's another to just get into the habit of complaining and blaming other people. And that you never grow by doing that. And as hard as that is sometimes to just want to blame or say like, oh my gosh, it's their fault, or they didn't do this, or they didn't do that. ultimately we're only in control of ourselves. So I feel like we didn't get stuck in that blame game or putting other people down. And one thing that really triggers me is when adults put other kids down. Oh, they stink. Oh, they don't do this. And, start comparing other people. Well, they should be playing. And, as a parent in your head, it's like, wow, that's my daughter's position. And oh my gosh, that child made a mistake. But you know what? They're a child and they're human. And to really like start belittling them and talking really down to them is a circle that I just didn't want to get in. And I think that that's really important too, to just realize you can only control yourself and your work ethic and just not get into the habit of putting other people down to make yourself feel better, because in the end, that won't make you feel better.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And Jenna, I'm going to put you on the spot with this too, because I think you've grown into a really great communicator, especially with the career you've chosen and you now coach too. I mean, being a high school counselor and coaching girls that age, like what are some of the stuff you see or advice you would give to parents who either don't want to let their kids advocate for themselves, or if you're the child always asking your parents to advocate for you? What are kind of some of the things you see, because that's a big age group that you deal with?
Yeah, I would definitely encourage parents to let your kid be comfortable being uncomfortable, because definitely being in the high school, I mean, with softball or just life in general, there's a lot of parents who are still speaking for their kids. And I'm not saying there's appropriate times for that. Don't get me wrong. But I just feel like some people sometimes think, oh, well, when they hit high school, they'll start advocating for themselves. Oh, when they hit this stage, they'll start advocating for themselves. But circling back into softball, if you just threw Allie, if you've never played softball before, and I was just like, hey, go out on the field and hit a home run, you would be like, what? You want to be able to do it? And it's just the same with life skills. I feel like if you're just about to throw your kid out there and say, go talk to the coach, you're in high school now, go advocate for yourself, it's most likely not going to end that well, because they don't have the coping or the skills to be able to do that, which is just like anything in life, which I feel like Coach Megan and I tried to work with our girls JV and varsity with, and just in my career in general. And I feel like that's just something people don't think about all the time. You just don't get those skills by becoming a certain age. I mean, some adults, we all know, whoever's listening, don't have those skills. I'm sure you can think of someone you work with who doesn't have those
Yeah.
skills, but they're just not going to randomly appear someday, just like anything in life. So
I mean, Jenna, there was a point you and I thought it was the biggest deal who was going to order the family pizza for the night. Like, we
right.
used to fight over it because we were so anxious.
I actually told the kid about that the other day. I was like, you know what? Mine started with I was terrified to order a pizza, but now I have no problem ordering a pizza, you know?
Yeah.
So it's got to start somewhere, and there's no embarrassment from where it starts, but you do have to let your kid, the earlier age, the better, just be comfortable being uncomfortable in certain situations. And I imagine, I'm obviously not a parent, but I imagine that's very hard for parents to do. But you have to find some way to do that.
I'll chime in real quick. I'm sure mom has some stuff to say. There's nothing fun about watching your child fail. Like, it hurts, if anybody that's had kids, but if you don't do it, everything else is going to hurt more in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say that life gets so busy too that it's so easy to just do stuff for your child. It's like, okay, we'll just do the laundry. We'll just fold the laundry because it's the way I want it. Okay, we'll just order the pizza. But speaking of the pizza, that's where I got to a point where I think you guys were in like, I don't know, sixth and seventh grade or something. And you guys were like, I want a pizza. And I'm like, Allie, you're gonna order the pizza. And it was a time when we had the phone book. And so she's like, okay, I'll order it. She was so nervous and she got it. And it was like, a large pizza at that time was like $35. I'm like, what? What did you order? Well, she ordered it from the place like a half an hour away. I'm like, you need to call them back. You called the wrong one. You got to call the Horseheads one. And then she's like, oh my gosh. And she had to correct that mistake, which was even more stressful. But it was so good in helping to prepare you for the future. And even when like you guys got your driver's license, you went to your own dental appointments, and that was hard because I lost control. You went to your own eyeglass appointments. I wasn't there to pick the eyeglasses, and but it's really important to help you develop that independence before you go away when you're just trying everything for the first time. So that was something that Dad and I talked about. We're like, even though things might take longer, and they're not going to be done exactly the way we want them. We have to let you guys do this stuff and watch you grow through it. So when you are on your own, it won't be as scary.
Allie, I have a question for you, actually, or Dad. I'm throwing a question to the podcasters, which I feel like
All
never
right.
happens. I feel like we're talking a lot about us learning these skills at an early age or being fortunate enough to have parents who taught us these skills at an early age. How do you potentially help somebody as a coach who may be listening or a parent be listening and being like, crap, I have a high schooler, I haven't let them do anything for themselves, or I'm a high schooler and I'm terrified to go talk to my coach. How could you help them?
Allie?
I was gonna say, I feel like just start small, right? Like, let's say you're a junior in high school right now and you're like, I'm behind. Okay, well, just get better tomorrow, right? Like, do something that scares you tomorrow and then go from there. Because I feel like as long as you're trying to get better, you're going to end up in a better spot than you were before, right? There's people in college who I knew freshman year who were so timid, and then by their senior year, they were flourishing from like a communication perspective. So I think it's important to not necessarily compare yourself, but also hold yourself accountable, right? Like, if let's say you're on a team in high school and you look around and all these girls are comfortable doing these things and you're not, don't just be like, well, I'm not good at that. Like, honestly, self-reflect and say, maybe that's something I should be doing too. But I feel like we don't like to self-reflect and we just say, I'm not good at it. That's not me. That's not my personality. Instead of actually trying to be uncomfortable and work toward those things. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
No, I agree. Whenever I hear a student or a player say I suck at something or I'm not good at something, I say, nope, you currently struggle with it. That's step one. And then I think of the whole process of like being up to bat. You have 3 chances, right? The earlier you start, the better off you're going to be in your bat. Like the best time to ever start making a change was yesterday, and that's gone. The second best time's today. Just make the best of it. If you're always waiting till tomorrow, I mean, right from the movie Annie, it's always a day away. You're never going to do it. It's always tomorrow. So, like what Ellie said, start small and just start right now. Like do something. If you're nervous about it, just try something small right now. Like calling the pizza place a half hour away and then having to call back,
All right, let's move on from that example. But I was gonna say as a coach too, I think there's some things you can do, right? Like the travel organization, I hope we put something in place this year where if you want to talk about playing time before your parent calls me, you have to come talk to the coaching staff first. And we explain to all the parents at the beginning of the year, like, this is for your kid, right? We feel like we're approachable, we're not scary, but we want them to be able to talk to us and advocate for them. And obviously, if it's a safety issue or something that you're worried about, yes, you can call the coaching staff like at all times. But it's been amazing this year to see them come up to us and be able to vocalize things and speak for themselves. And I also feel like what I'm seeing from it is, yeah, they're talking to us about playing time, but they're actually talking to us about a lot more as well. So I think it's just plant the seed. If you're a coach, you have more power to do that than you think, while obviously being realistic that if something comes up, like, yes, I'm accessible to the parents as well, but I think there's just power in it that some coaches may not think about. Good question, Jenna. One thing I wanted to turn to, because this is a big part of our softball journey, I'm gonna say 2 words and whoever can start wants to start. Travel ball.
Whoa. I mean, this was never the expectation. That's the whole point. You guys did. I remember you did. What was it called, Mom? Tiny tumbling or tiny top? What was the gymnastics they did?
Oh, tiny tumblers, I think.
Tiny tumblers. No, but they started out with that. And I think that's where, I mean, they started getting some coordination and then they got into karate, did that. And then I think that gave them some discipline and a little bit of a competitive edge because you have to pass tests and proceed at your own pace. And then when it got into softball, they just took a love for it. It's not like, and then same with basketball, really, for years. I don't think there was never a goal of getting into travel and competing in college. It was just the process we stumbled upon. And, the travel ball, boy, I mean, we could do a whole podcast about that.
Yeah, I mean, Mom and Jenna, I'm curious your thoughts too. Obviously, we did not play on the same team throughout our entire career. We always had the rule as a family, you finish out the year on the team that you start on. We weren't going to leave in the middle of a year. But I'm just curious, you can take this whatever route you want with travel ball, whatever you want to talk about. But I think maybe just incorporating in between the four of us, what it was like switching teams, what you would tell girls thinking about switching teams, things like that.
Well, I'm very grateful for travel ball because I think that I've met some of my greatest friends from travel ball, even though a lot of them live states away, which kind of sucks, but it's okay. Switching teams, I would always encourage. I mean, some girls that I coach now will ask or switch teams, and I just fully believe you have to do what's best for you and your family in an appropriate way, not leaving in like the middle of a tournament or, just having that open communication, maybe waiting till the end of the year. I mean, I don't want to speak for specific people's situations, but I do believe, if you're trying to get recruited and you're playing for a local travel team, like I heard an expression once that I love, a local team, I'll just use Stafford, Virginia, because that's where I am right now. If you're only playing people in Stafford, Virginia, you're in a tiny, tiny pond and there's a whole ocean out there. And I just feel like some people can get blindsided by that. Well, my daughter batted 800. Okay, I'm not taking that away from your daughter at all, but you are in a tiny pond wanting to go and play for Florida, So I mean, if you are striving to play at a higher level, I just think you have to do what's best for you and your family. And if that means switching teams at the end of the year and getting out there to get that better competition, then that's what you need to do. But I just think that open communication, especially with your family, and there's a lot of costs involved that mom and dad, I'm sure, will speak about. And that's obviously a factor of it, and just having it be a group family decision, what's going to be best for you. So
I think, that's something that we talked about as a family each year, especially as you guys got more serious with what your goals were and wanting to play at college. I think so many parents like think about what the other adults want. Um, and, saying, well, I don't want to leave our friends. But if they're truly your friends, they're going to support you in your decision. And dad, I'm not acting like dad and I are perfect in any way, but one thing that we always did was right away when we knew we were leaving a team, we told them right up front. We didn't play games and go back and forth and, um, be dishonest with people about what our plan was. We called them. We said we are leaving. We feel this is best for our daughters. This is what we're gonna do. And our true friends stayed our true friends, and our people that weren't, you know, weren't friends anymore. And that was really tough for dad and I to realize that people we thought were good friends just ended a friendship because we switched to travel team doing something what is best for our children. So I would just say for families trying to decide, what you want to do what's best for your family, be honest about it, and think of what your kids' goals are, and put your kids in positions where you're going to help them reach their goal, because ultimately it's your child's journey. It's not your friends, it's not their friends' friends, it's your child's journey, and as a parent you want to try to help them reach that goal. And Jenna, you mentioned the money part of it, and definitely sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? You added a trip to Huntington Beach? Like what? That's not like adding a trip a half an hour away. Those finances are something people have to balance. But one thing I would want to say that if your child wants to play and it is tough financially, there are still ways for you to reach that goal of playing college ball.
Yeah.
I think goals is the big point there. You have to be on a team with people doing the same things you want to accomplish. And if not, you can't force other people to do things they don't want to do, and you shouldn't play down. And I think that's what we did. We always found a team of like-minded people and parents that were pursuing the same things.
Yeah, I think too, like one of the best ways I I try to think about it, or I think people out there can think about it, is if from a work ethic perspective or a goal perspective, you feel like you're doing things differently from every single person on your team, you're probably not in the right spot. And I say that because the team Jen and I ended up on, you know, when we ultimately got recruited, every girl was trying to get recruited. Every girl was putting in extra work. It felt normal, even though we were in like the 1% of high school athletes trying to get recruited, but it felt really normal because everybody around us was doing the same thing. So I think if you're, you know, in a place where you're working so much harder than everybody else, they don't get why you're working that hard. No one else wants to have the same goals that you have. I'm not saying you have to move. I just think it's appropriate to reevaluate, you know, is it the right place for you?
And I was just going to add too, like if you're the star on the team and you're used to being the star, that's great, but that means it's probably time to move because you want to be playing with people where anybody can be the star on any given day and you're competing with people that have those same goals like you guys said. You know, you want to get better by playing like Allie, you played with people that were 2 and 3 years older at times and that was tough at times. You know, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't get a hit. Like Dad said, you didn't get a hit till that last tournament. And that's hard to see other people getting hits. And you're like, I mean, that's a lot of at bats with no hit.
Oh,
You
trust me,
know, and
I
we're
know.
like, man, you know,
Should
come
we
on, girl,
remind you
just
again?
get one hit. And you got on base with that walk where everybody was cheering so loud, you
Mhm.
know. So I mean, that's hard. That's really, really hard. And it's hard as a parent, you know, you try to balance like what is going to be best. And if I don't know if this is the appropriate time to add into this, but I just feel like really being mindful of your child's mental health
Mm.
is so, 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 so important. You know, make sure that you're making sure you're telling your child you love them and it's not conditional on how they perform athletically because it's really important to have those check-ins with your child.
Yeah, and I mean, I was hard enough on myself already, and I'll let Jenna speak to this too. And I didn't have to deal with that, right? Like I knew your love wasn't conditional on whether I played well or not, and I still struggled sometimes. So I can't even imagine. And I think for parents out there, like it just puts a really heavy weight on an athlete when they know that their weekend plans are going to be shifted if they strike out in this at bat, or they're going to have to go practice for 6 hours if they miss a ground ball. Like I think it's just so much pressure to put on an athlete. And a lot of times, like relationships I've seen like that, the player ends up getting burnt out, which I mean, you can't really blame them at that point because they see the opportunity cost is a little bit lower of, hey, I'd rather go be doing something else where my love isn't conditional on how good I hit a big yellow ball. Like it sounds silly when you put it like that, but Jen, I'm curious your thoughts on that too, because that's a good point, Mom.
Yeah, I think the best coaches I've had, because you still want to be held accountable. Like, you don't also want it to shift too far, like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's okay. But I think the best coaches I have always held me accountable for mental mistakes, like things in my control throughout the game, and the rest, fell into place. Of course, you're always going to have a physical error, a ball, you miss your do or die in the outfield, and everyone watches you run to the fence to get it. Worst feeling in the world for all my outfielders out
I
there.
just saw the
Um,
pain in your eyes when you said
yeah,
that.
worst thing ever. So like obviously that stuff's gonna happen, but the when I was younger and you gave dad the pep talk, but I chose not to wear my sunglasses in the sun and missed a fly ball. And dad got so mad he kicked a bucket, which is fine, but not saying that was the right action. But that was why didn't I have my sunglasses on? That's such a stupid example. But just you can hold athletes accountable for their mental mistakes and the rest will fall into place because those are things that an athlete can control and can continually work on instead of just solely focusing on physical mistakes, because we have had some coaches like that too, and it is very easy to get burnt out from that because you're always going to have those.
Yeah.
I just want to add it to the sunglass. And Dad and I, oh my gosh. Meanwhile, well, you should have asked for sunglasses.
That was my
There
own
were
fault.
3 grown men screaming at you for 15 minutes that you missed the ball, yet not one of them suggested, Jenna, the sunglasses may help.
Which again, self-reflecting, should have brought the sunglasses
No,
out. My
Should
own
have
fault.
asked, that could have been a teachable moment
And it
no.
was. I
from the
always had
Listen,
my
adults.
sunglasses on if the sun was there ever since, grained into my brain.
listen, I get it. I think back, I mean, with all that you're gonna have ups and downs. I think of the sunglass moment. I think of the having to sit under the tree getting kicked out of the game of Virginia while Allie's winning the sportsmanship award, you know.
That's
I
a
mean,
good one.
we've brought up that other stuff, but I'm so grateful that I had a family that held me accountable too. Like just because I'm the dad, it was their journey, and all three of you kept me in check and made me a better person to the point where I take a lot of pride in coaching the game still. And I think looking back on travel and sports in general, Mom and I never had to worry about your effort in anything you did. And that makes any up or down easier to swallow because it was under your control. For the most part, you were always well balanced and kept good perspective about what you were working towards. And then I think that the proudest thing, I don't think you ever held the sport as your sole form of identity. I mean, you know, to this day. And all the stories we could talk and rehash, those three things are what make me proudest about what you accomplished in the sport and what you did, because those are three tools you still use today. You with your jobs, you put in your effort, you keep your perspective, and it's not your identity.
Yeah. And I think one thing too that's kind of unique about our family and like the way that we grew up, you know, Jenna and I always playing on the same teams together. Like I kind of accredit that for the reason that I feel Jenna, you and I were both really good teammates throughout college because I mean, it happened several times. Let's say I'm 0 for 3, Jenna's 3 for 3. I'm upset. She's happy. Okay, I'm going to be happy for her. Like, we can't just get in the car and only talk about me when Jenna just had the game of her life. So I feel like that was kind of unique about our family. And there were a few unique times where we both played really well, and that was really fun. but for the most part, it was always, hey, one probably performed a little better than the other. Am I going to drag my whole family down right now? Hopefully not. There were times I probably did. Same with you, Jenna. But yeah, everybody's laughing.
More
Haha.
you
But
than me.
yeah,
I would
but I
like
feel
to
like
add,
it
oh,
helped
sorry,
you.
Al.
No, no, no. I was just gonna say, I feel like it kind of helped us be more selfless, if that makes sense.
I would like to add one of my favorite changes in high school was when you were required to ride the bus home. There were parents upset about that and getting a petition, and I was like, Hallelujah, because it was so difficult as a parent when one of you played, you know, in your mind had a great game, or maybe you didn't, the other one didn't have a great game, and just listening to the car ride. And I'm like, this is great, especially if it was like an hour away. By the time you got home, we went to Chili's, we were all good, and
Chili.
it was perfect. And when I remember a parent asking me to sign the petition, I said, oh no, 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 I'm not signing that petition. I thought it was great for you guys to be as a team going home together and, you know, working through that.
That's it was a cooling off period that we didn't know we needed, and it was the best thing. Yeah, I agree.
I was just
Closing.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
I was just the last thing I was going to say when someone says something about the identity, I feel like having, I being able to identify multiple identities for yourself is super helpful because when we would have, if I had a bad game, it was like, okay, but I still got an A on my test today, or, I read my Bible today, or something like that, where you can still turn your day into a positive. But when you're solely focused and all you feel like your identity is a softball player and you have that terrible performance, that is going to eat you alive mentally if you're not able to shift your focus on other things. So that's just, it took me a little bit to figure that out. So I'm not acting like I had that from a super early age. It took me a bit to figure out, but just for anybody listening, if you really, feel like you're dwelling on that a lot, just finding other things to focus on in your life. Because even if you can't think of it, I promise you are more than just whatever your sport is too. So I just wanted to say that piece in there.
And I think having people in your life that remind you that it's not all that you are, because I think when you're in it, it's really hard. But there were times I'd call all you guys and you're like, Al, like you're holding yourself way too high of a standard right now. Like, look, shift your perspective to this. And I'd be like, oh, you're right. And to you, it was probably the most obvious statement you ever could have said, but it helps pull you out of it. And I feel like we've all done that for each other at different times. But
That's why I said it took some time.
yeah.
Not that easy.
Still working on it.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts?
Or favorite like Richmond softball memories.
Oh gosh.
I put myself out there with the tree and the bucket, so I think
Yeah, I
I'm
love how
done.
you just skipped over that one. Don't
I
all
would just
speak at
say,
once,
from a
everybody.
parent, I would just say enjoy every moment with your kids because it goes by so fast. Again, whether your child performs well for that game or, struggles that game, be there for them and let them go out to dinner. I remember I'd be like, "Where's so and so?" "Oh, they can't come out because we lost tonight or they didn't play well." And I was like, that just broke my heart. So all the memories that you're having with your kids right now, yes, it's the game, but it's all those times after too. And your reaction to your children when they're going through tough times, they're going to remember those words and they're going to remember how you made them feel. And that's going to drive where they go from there in sports. So I think just enjoy every moment because it goes so fast.
Yeah, I mean, my ending is you talked about it real quick in the beginning. We literally would ask you every year, do you want to keep doing this? And, there were some unintended rules behind that, and the effort was one of them. And because you did all that, we made the most. We spent 28 days on the road going to softball tournaments in our car the one year. That was insane. And what I would give anything to go back and do that again, maybe not every second, but most of the seconds.
And we're still married and we didn't get in a huge fight. So that was
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, Mom, off your point of enjoying every second, I feel like it's so easy to just get caught up in things that you think matter. And, one piece of advice I heard is if you're upset about something and it lasts more than 15 minutes, is it still going to bother you in a month or a year? Because if not, you need to let it go. And I think, there were times when maybe I let my performance affect, the thing we were doing as a family. And I got better at that and you guys pulled me out of that. But most of the memories I have when I look back at travel ball, even college, are with my teammates, with you guys, all the road trips that we went on, going to Colorado, whitewater rafting, the lazy river for any of the TC Tremors listening right now. But just things like that are what comes to mind for me. And if I were to sit in my room and sulk and not have done any of those things, I wouldn't have those memories. So I just feel like you have to be able to flush things and let them go and be where your feet are and be present and have the perspective of, okay, it's kind of selfish of me to be complaining right now on this travel trip that my parents are playing for. I'm 16 years old in Colorado playing the sport I love in front of college coaches, and I'm going to make my whole family miserable because I struck out once. Like when you put it like that, it really doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think just having that perspective is really important.
Just once.
All right. Anyways.
No, and listen, this is great. I'll close with
What's
we
Jenna's
did.
closing remarks? We need
Oh,
her
Jenna.
closing remarks. I can tell she's
They
thinking up a
forgot
lot of
about
good
me.
thoughts over there.
They always forget about me. No, I'm kidding. I would just say always evaluate who you surround yourself with. Even if you think you're the most positive person in the world, but you got 5 negative people around you, you're eventually gonna just start drifting away. And I'm not saying, those people aren't your friends, but just when you're down, you can't do softball alone or life alone. So just make sure you always have positive people. Allie is such my go-to. I mean, mom and dad are too, but just being able to call that person just to pull you out when you're in, oh, I suck, I can't hit, like this is terrible, this all is going terrible, and just being able to get that and not wallow in it from positive people around you. Just always check that for yourself. I
Yeah.
still do. So not
I
easy.
mean, Jen and I called each other at 5:30 in the morning the other day when she just got done at the gym and I was driving to the gym and we just talked for 30 minutes. So
Yeah.
I'm like,
Pep talk
That
on the
makes
way
me
to work.
happy. That makes
yeah,
me happy.
I'm like, well, she was like, you're a hard woman to get a hold of. I'm like, what are you doing right now? It's 5:30 in the morning, but
Yeah.
I just think like I'm so grateful for those relationships that we've made too. Like, I mean, just this past weekend, travel friends that we met through travel ball when you guys were playing stopped by our business. And it was just like great to be able to catch up with them. It's
Fun.
like no time went by because of the memories that we had together. So I just feel so grateful and blessed not only to have those memories as a family, but to have those special people in our lives forever for forever friends. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that too. I feel like I'm proud of us for the way that we went through everything. I feel like we stayed true to ourselves. We're obviously very close as a family to this day, more so now. I feel like it, even as we were going through it, but I feel like it's because we went about it a good way, a way that we felt comfortable with, because I feel like, some people can start to resent each other a little bit if they don't see eye to eye, but I feel like it just made us stronger throughout all the things that we went through. So I am proud of us for that too.
Listen, thank you, everybody. We weren't sure which way this conversation was going to go, but we all know we would ask a lot of questions and tell a lot of stories and have fun. But we didn't talk about all literally the accolades and the tourneys won and the big games and the memories, because that's a given if you do things the right way. It means so much more if it's done the right way, or the Richmond way, as I like to say it. So
Oh, there we go.
thank
Think we
you,
just found
everybody.
the podcast title, maybe? No.
Oh, I've been sitting on that. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.